Okay. Okay, would like to call to order the August 1st, 2016 work session of the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners. Welcome. We've got a lot going on in the room tonight. First item on our agenda is approval of the work session agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and that takes us to our discussion items. And first up is our library change in hours, and Emery Ortiz is here to talk with us about that. Welcome.
We began opening on Fridays about a year ago now. And when we did that, the Mount Pleasant branch had shorter operational hours than the other branches, which seemed to be working out fine, but we heard a lot of feedback from the community that they would like the Mount Pleasant branch to be open longer on Fridays and Saturdays. Currently, the schedule is 10 to 3 on Fridays and Saturdays. So to adjust that and make it a little bit more convenient for the Mount Pleasant community, we have decided to change the operational hours of Mount Pleasant from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and to 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday and Saturday. So the same amount of operational hours overall, but just adjusting those Friday and Saturday hours. And Jackie Mills, our Mount Pleasant branch manager, included very helpful charts and graphs as to our busy hours in the Mount Pleasant branch. Any questions on Mount Pleasant?
I might have missed this, but these hours, did you guys, have you talked to the community or the people who are not too pleased with the hours? Do you have any feel for how they'll look at these?
We hope that will be received well. I know there are a lot of kind of 3 p.m. people who would show up at the branch and then be really disappointed that we were about to close. So it seems like we're going to hit the most traffic for those hours. We did talk about maybe adjusting a little bit later if we need to, but we'll try that out and see how that goes.
This was an opportunity to increase hours, not increase cost. So as Emery said, to maybe try to address it up front, and then we'll see if it continues to be an issue, then we would come back to you for some additional money to fund those additional hours. So.
Any other questions? I must admit, initially, I thought that we really should have uniform operating hours at all the branches. I think I've mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. But you guys did an excellent job with the charts and the graphs and the studies, and it makes a lot of sense. Good. And I hope the folks in Mount Pleasant realize that if we find out if that doesn't work, we'll look at something else. But
that's right.
It looks like it's going to fill the need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And one other topic that I did have to discuss with you was another change for all the branches, and that is 2 days of training where we will be closed to the public and just open for in-service training. Our first one is scheduled for October 19th, and the second one is scheduled for April. So we've already updated our holiday closings for the year and included those dates, and we will be putting those up on the website and make sure people are well aware beforehand.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item for discussion is county wayfinding signs. We've got Kyle Billifer and Michael Miller, and then I think Terry Crawford representing the CVB if needed.
Good evening. It's just a discussion of the Cabarrus Convention and Visitors Bureau wayfinding signage package for Cabarrus County. This was brought to us so to give you an idea, if you guys haven't already heard this is kind of the design of the new wayfinding signage that they've come up with for both the towns, the cities, and the county. We would be responsible for only 65 of the signs of the entire package. So that would be our responsibility, not installing them or getting them designed, but after they're put into the ground, we would be responsible for maintaining them. So brought this in front of you because they need some direction from us. We would be the first between all the municipalities or county to approve to move forward with these, and we would have to put together a bunch of different encroachments for the DOT. We'd have to sign off on those for where those signs are going. To give you an idea of the range of cost of those signs, there's 65 in total that would belong to us, the lowest value ranging an estimated $4,500 and the high side being $8,000. Now, those are estimates since this signage package has not been bid out yet. So these are all estimates from the group they used to design the actual signs. So what that would mean is if one of those 65 signs happens to be the $8,000 one and it gets hit beyond repair, we would be responsible for repairing that. Now, currently, our operating budget for our sign maintenance division is not equipped to handle that, because what we're expecting is that we'd probably want to carry about 10 to 12% of the cost of the total 65 signs every single year in our operating budget. So you're looking just to ballpark everybody here, about $50,000. And that represents our total sign maintenance materials budget right now. So for fiscal year 18, you'd be looking at doubling our sign materials budget to be able to handle that cost. Those are not things we would fabricate in-house. Some of the parts, if it was just damaged, we could possibly do something on, but if it was a complete demolition of the sign, we'd have to order completely. So to give you an idea of what that effect on the budget in fiscal year 18. Now, obviously, we have no funds for fiscal year 17, and they're looking for approval to bid this out and start installing in fiscal year 17. So your next question would probably be, how are we going to handle that if something gets hit? I think that we can handle it based on the 65 signs and figuring that they have not even bid the project or installed yet. So I kind of figure we've got about 4 to 5, maybe even 6 months before they go in the ground. And that would leave us with, 5 to 6 months of keeping our fingers crossed and hoping nothing gets hit. So that would be the best case scenario. But they are looking for direction from us of if we're going to move forward with this. Mr. Downs and myself did ask which cities have already signed on to move forward with this. I don't think they have any signed right now, Mike, that I'm aware of.
No, I believe this is the first presentation here.
Yeah.
So they've signed on pretty much on the project itself, but now that everything, the cost and the amount of signs and everything that's coming through, we are the first ones that they've come to, partly because we've got the signs that are in the unincorporated, and then we also have some that are in the incorporated areas but still carry the Cabarrus logo on the top. But those are once they get into the destination or to downtown, then the cities will take over to those areas.
And to clarify, some of those signs will be in, like Mr. Downs said, will be in city areas, but they'll be directing them to county amenities and county locations or to something outside of that city limit. So that's why we're taking responsibility of those.
Kyle, these obviously are not your everyday road signs, obviously, and the expense is quite a bit more. When a person has an automobile accident and involves one of our signs, do we get any kind of reimbursement for repair?
If there's a police report and we get that information, yes, the answer is we could subrogate through their insurance. That is correct.
Okay. And that's taken into consideration when you do your budget? I mean, you got to have some kind of a track record of how many signs has been hit. Obviously not like this.
Yeah. I would say the majority of them there are costs. We absorb the cost on the street
Right.
signs. Very few times do we ever find out who's
Yeah.
run into them. Usually it's at night, over the weekend or something, and so.
Good
unless-
example, hit and run, huh?
That's exactly right, yeah.
Yeah, or our street signs, I would tell you that a lot more go missing because people want them to go missing versus being
Yeah,
hit.
they might-
That's just pretty
Either they
much
don't
how
like
it
the
is.
name, or they may show up in their basement, in their game room, or something
Yeah.
like that, because they like the name of the road.
Well, one thing about it, people really honestly don't realize the cost of these signs. If they did, they might be a little bit more careful with them. I don't know how much they are. I'm sure it depends on size, location, and whatever it takes to get that sign put up, but they're rather expensive just for what you see.
My hope is with the size of these signs and the weight of them and the location of them is that they will not just be taken. I think it'll be a difficult task, but I probably just jinxed myself right there. So I'd hate to see an $8,000 sign just go missing and, not because of an accident or something like that.
Well, let's hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
Kyle, one question for the board's information. Can you absorb this amount of labor with your current staff, or are we having to hire additional people?
We will not have to hire additional staff for this. Now, I will say that if the cities, a couple of the municipalities, we service their street signs for them. So we handle Harrisburg, Mount Pleasant, and Midland. Now, if they were to follow suit and go with these wayfinding signages and put that burden, came back to us and asked that to put that into their contract, that might be a little bit difficult to take on. But at this point, I'm planning on using contractors to build these things, because based on our discussions with the actual company that designed this Merge, who did this, we don't have the capabilities to make those type of signs. So I would like to think it's going to be a lot of contract-based, Mike, and that would be a pass-through cost.
The agreements with the cities, it would be a direct cost
Yes.
pass-through.
Yeah, we'd have to renegotiate our contracts. Currently, our contracts with the municipalities, we have a flat rate for basically either double-sided, single-sided sign, if it's all broken, if it's the post, if it's not, and it factors in labor. This would be something different, where we would say there's going to be an absolute direct pass-through cost. We would just basically handle the administration of it, if that's a better way. And nobody has approached me with that, and I haven't asked anybody yet.
Another question. I guess they've already been determined of what signs will be made, what locations are going to be put on the signs.
They have.
In the future, there may be other locations that come along. Can they be added to these signs, or do we have to get another sign made?
Well, we would have to
If you
get
have
a,
another significant thing come into the county.
I don't believe that they're going to take on that cost if we want to add things in the future. I believe it would, where it needs to fall, is it a county sign or is it a city sign? And that entity would have to absorb that cost. But we've made it very clear to them that we want all the specs in the submittals. So what you're looking at right now, I can't go make a sign with that. I need the thickness, how it was bent, what degree, how it looks, what color, what font, all of that to replicate or add in the future. And that's one of the verbal agreements we've had with them, is that we will get all of that information, we will get all the submittals, and we will get all the bids, so that we will have them. So moving forward, let's just say we want to put something that says this way to a parking deck or something like that, that we can go ahead and design that. But no, I do not believe that they're assuming that cost as there are more amenities to direct people to.
And second question, are all of these destinations governmentally funded, or are some of them private? For instance, the Speedway or something like that.
I would tell you that a good portion of them would be private. I wouldn't feel that they're
I'm
all
not-
governmental.
Terry may have to answer that one. I don't.
Yeah, some are.
Come, Terry, yeah, come up. Yeah, see.
I think in the case of the Speedway, the original concept, just maybe go back a little bit in history, was to get visitors around the county to specifically the destinations that are tourism-oriented, in addition to the municipalities to their front door, and that's kind of the thing. So if you take Reed Gold Mine, for example, that's one that is obviously that is part of this. This track would definitely be part of this, which is a private enterprise, so to speak. So I don't have the exact
So do the
number.
private enterprises help to pay for the sign? I mean,
That's a
you're
good question.
you're choosing certain private enterprises. I'm just thinking we might get another private enterprise that says, I want a directional sign, I need a directional sign.
Yeah,
And
I
how,
think-
do you have standards, do you have regulations, do you have parameters for who can be on a sign?
Well, I know a great deal of work, I think, and thought process went into what signage would be directed where and to whom, And to answer your question too, these signs are panels that are inserted, so if something new came on, it's possible there would be a panel that could be put in at a much less price than the $6,000 or whatever the cost of the sign, just FYI there. But I don't have the list in front of me, I wasn't provided that, but a lot of thought went into where directionally we're going, and most of it is to municipalities. In other words, getting you to Concord, getting you to Kannapolis, getting you to Mount Pleasant, Midland, and so forth. The other parts would be then to re-gold mine. The arena's obviously a big one. Then the third category would fall out, would probably be, in this case, because of where the Speedway sits, would be in there. But anything in the municipalities, such as the basketball arena here, that's going to be responsibility of the Concord folks. So if it falls within the city limits, it will not be part of this project, meaning directional, just get you to the city. And I'm trying to think quickly on my feet how many other areas that would be in addition, so.
I don't mean to belabor it, I'm just thinking that in the future, you might have
Yeah.
some private business that
Yes.
comes in with a tourist-oriented situation, and so is that,
I do have an answer for you on that one. Now I
you know,
understand what you're asking.
do you have any kind of, yes, you will if you get so many people, or?
Pam and Liz might.
That sounds like a nitpicking question, but I'm trying to think forward, and it might be avoid problems in the future.
The way the Bureau has addressed that, and please, if I'm speaking out here, the way the Bureau has addressed that is that anything that were to come onto the market or into the county that would be tourism-related, the Bureau will pick up the cost of that sign as a panel that would go on the sign. I apologize, I didn't quite understand. what you were
Of the
meaning by that.
initial sign.
The initial sign, and
it
then
would fall
then the
into
county would,
jurisdiction for
yeah, and then the
repair.
county would supplement that, so.
Any other questions? I think this is on our agenda for our regular meeting, so we will be back in touch.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up are discussion items for action at our August 15th meeting. And we have Kelly Klutz and Tim Louder from Cabarrus County Schools to talk about item 4.1.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here. There's a request item before you to reallocate funds in the capital account that need to come over into this fiscal year. The reason those are still hanging there, and I have a detailed list if you'd like for me to review. Most of those allocations are the mobile units that you guys graciously approved. I believe it was in March. And what happens is we issue the purchase order, we get the product delivered, and then there's the fiscal year cross. So we had probably taken delivery of them just right around June. And then we have to get the invoice and things like that. So really, we really spent the money, and we just need it back so that we can pay the invoice in this fiscal year. So that's most of it. There's also the technology for those mobile units and the furniture. Of course, we don't want to purchase the furniture and technology until the mobile units are in place, and so that just took a little bit. It's just really timing is what we're dealing with, and we certainly do not want to look a gift horse in the mouth. We appreciate the money in March. It sure did help our system out a lot. Are there any questions?
So then that means that you'll say, we gave you $1 million to do these things then, and we're giving it to you again, so we count that as $2 million?
Well, I wish.
you wanna
We can say that if you want.
Any questions? Very good. Thank you very much.
Wait, there was one
Okay.
other thing. Sorry, in that amount, in the 1.6, there are two small amounts. We finished up two projects, one being removing the asbestos at Central Cabarrus and replacing the fire alarm at Central. There was just, a little bit of money left in each account, $4,733 in one account and $14,167 in the other account. We wanted to know if we could use that money for the early college to finish up some things, and Mr. Louder.
Yes, when we received the units from the early college, we found the floor systems to be not quite the way they were presented, but of course we did buy them as is. But the military treated them quite poorly. I was kind of surprised. But we feel like we just really need to change out that tile and that sort of thing, and we're kind of looking for funds. And the only other option we have is go back and pull the funds away from the existing school, maintenance facilities monies. But with this money being not spent previously, we'd like to reallocate it to let us cover the cost of that.
Any questions on that?
It's a good use of the money. Typically, we would do at staff level, but since they're changing schools or the projects, it's going from one school to another, then that's that's why they needed to come talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Okay, next item, 4.2, and I do not see Will Crabtree with us from Kannapolis City Schools, so Susan Farrington is going to fill us in.
I received an email this morning from Mr. Crabtree, and he was going to send the superintendent, but I don't see him in the room, so I'll try and answer your questions about Kannapolis. This money they had, of their allocation, they had a little bit of money left over their regular capital outlay, and they had some money for their facilities maintenance division. Money that looks like to me, from my spreadsheet, they have $64,000 left in their lighting, conversion, ceiling tile, and grid replacement, about $15,000 for their non-compliant playground equipment, another $11,000 for the chiller replacement at Forest Park, for a total of $91,198.90 for their facilities maintenance division, and they had about $4,600 left in their regular capital outlay. I wish I could tell you what they were going to spend that money on, but I did not hear back from them. So if I can answer any questions, or I can get back with you before the next meeting, or there's an option that we could put this off until September.
Yeah. So there's a good chance you could get that information back to the board members prior to our regular meeting.
Yes, if you would prefer, I would send it out as an email when I hear back from the superintendent.
Great. Is that good for everyone?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I think you are up, no, Kristen
I'm
is up
Kristen.
next.
Hi there. I provided a handout that's on the very large piece of paper, and I believe it's also on page 103 of the agenda. So before you are reappropriation request for ongoing or uncompleted budgeted projects for FY16 that we are requesting to reappropriate for FY17. So it totals around $398,885.49. So I can go over the individual projects with you. We do this every year during August and September. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Kristen?
Is that jail a matching grant? Is that why we have the 99,000?
With the SCAP funds,
The very last one on the first page. Yes.
I believe those are funds that come from the state. Those are funds that they receive for the inmates that they keep, and we keep a running log of that money, and it can only be expended on the jail facility. So we used $60,000 of those revenues this year to fund the camera replacement project at the jail, and possibly if the funds continue to grow, we'll do the same thing next year to complete that project. But that was what the funds are gathered for the specific inmates that they have, and they can only use it for the jail project. So we've been searching for projects to place that money to instead of using other county funds. And the superintendent has arrived if you want to ask any questions.
He's getting ready to leave now.
You need to ask, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're up next.
I'm up next.
Okay, any other questions for Kristen? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll go back to our previous agenda item. Superintendent Buckwell is with us, and he can answer that question and save Susan an email.
You got it.
Welcome.
Well, it's good to be back. Apologize for being late. We ran into a little problem today at school, and I needed to finish that before I left. We ran into a little bit of a timing problem getting all the lighting changeovers finished, and we just need to reappropriate that for the coming fiscal year if possible. It was a matter of maybe biting off more than we could chew at the time, or the companies could chew, and so we were trying to finish that in the next year.
Okay, so same projects, just moving it forward.
Absolutely, exact same projects moving
Great.
forward.
Any questions for Dr. Buckwell? Okay.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you, and I do apologize for being late getting out here. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, next item, 4.4, County Manager.
This is a project that we've been talking about for quite a while. Commissioner Poole and I guess, talked about it the first time about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I guess it is. But this was some beginning language here to create a dedication type sign for those individuals, whether it's an individual or a company or something that's important, that's contributed to our community. You see them in some other areas of the state and in the country where home of such and such business is located here, that type thing. So we've got some language here that Kasha had retrieved from the North Carolina DOT, and then I made some comments on there as well, just based on this language. So this is a start. We wanted to make sure two things. One, that you still think it's a viable project and you want us to move forward with it. And then others, if you could take a look at some of the language here, make some suggestions, and then we will shape that out into a full-blown policy for your review, either at your regular meeting this month or bring it back to you at the work session in September for approval then. So any questions there? Again, these are signs that would be located on our Welcome to Cabarrus County signs. And again, it would be based on the criteria that you would set as a board. Then we would take recommendations or nominations throughout the year or the next several years as to somebody that a group or an individual may think is appropriate to nominate to have their name on the sign and be recognized by people coming into the county. So.
You know, a lot of counties do this. Not only counties, but states do it as well. And
Right.
I think it's a very worthwhile thing for us to consider. And talking about forming a committee, would this be a standing committee that would meet
It could, if you.
quarterly?
Yeah, you would. It would be somebody that the board would nominate or appoint to serve on that committee along with staff.
And
And then bring back those, they would vet the recommendation and then bring it back to the board for the final approval.
be similar to like an application process for the naming of a school or
Yes,
something
sir.
like that? You know, because I've been through that process with the schools,
Sure.
you know, where you take applications or suggestions.
Right.
And you got your criteria set, what all has to be part of that application. So this would be similar to that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Do you think we would want to discuss this further at our regular meeting, or do you want to defer it for a decision next month? Any preference from anyone?
I would probably recommend that you review it, because we did get it to you late today. If you'll review it and make some comments, and then we will pull it together as a policy and bring it back to your work session, if that would be okay.
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 I see positive head nods, so I think that will work. Okay, next item. Kyle Billifer talked with us about road improvements for Suncap.
Thank you. I'll be standing in for Mr. Marshall tonight on this, except taller. Brief summary, Suncap Charlotte LLC is required to make improvements to the surrounding road network as part of their development of International Drive. The DOT has secured economic development funds to assist with those improvements. One of the funding requirements is that the funds must pass through a local government rather than being paid directly to the private company. Cabarrus County will need to enter into 2 agreements, one with the DOT and one with Suncap, to receive and disperse the funds. There will be no cost to the county other than some legal fees to prepare the necessary documents. So the requested action we're looking for is a motion to approve Cabarrus County acting as the recipient and distributor of DOT economic development funds for the purpose, and to authorize the county manager to execute the related agreements subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney. And I know that Rich and/or Pam can speak about this, but after my discussions with Mr. Marshall, we'll basically be acting as a bank. We won't be handling any of the inspections. The DOT will let us know when the road improvements have been made exactly the way that they should be, and then we will disperse those payments. Any
This is all, excuse me, it's all state money that's passing through, and it's going to be very similar that, if we haven't already, we will be doing the same thing, I believe, for IPG, for McGee Road, because that is all state funded with economic development money as well, and the state has to give it to another public entity versus an individual or a company. So,
Okay, any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, next item is 4.6, Economic Development Investment, the Hotel Concord project. Mike Downs.
Well, this is coming to you. You've had a couple of conversations with Ms. Diane Young from the CDDC and also Mr. Patrick Riley from his group that are proposing to develop the Hotel Concord and the Fifth Third Bank project. So in our conversations, you have shown interest in providing an I'm going to get this wrong, amortizable grant or loan to them to help them with this project. And it would be future, there'll be more conversation at the public hearing. But we're bringing it to you tonight to set the public hearing for your regular meeting in 2 weeks to discuss further. The loan, the proposed loan would be in the amount of $105,000 over a 5-year period. And it would be for the mixed-use development or redevelopment of the historical buildings of the Concord Hotel and the Fifth Third Bank on Union Street. So we would need you to, before the evening over, to set the public hearing for the 15th.
A great opportunity to improve the value on our tax base, I think, with this project. Any questions or comments?
Just one quick question, Mr. Chairman. That would be, I'm assuming that's an interest-free, $105,000 is interest-free, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
And upon the happening of certain conditions, the loan would ultimately be forgiven.
Right, it's just a...
Based on our discussion, I think everyone understood
Right.
that.
Instead of doing it all at one time, we just doing it in over a 5-year
5
period,
years.
which I think is the wise thing to do.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
With the ability to claw back or pull back if
Right.
the project doesn't follow
If
through.
anything happens that it doesn't follow through, we're not out of the $405,000, only to the point where that whatever happened, happened.
105, and that's correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
105,000.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, with that, unless there's any other questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules of procedure so we can get us a public hearing set.
Great.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend our rules. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and would entertain a motion to set a public hearing for Monday, August 15th at 6:30 PM.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. So that does set the public hearing for our regular meeting this month. Okay, next item, 4.7, transfer of the Business Technology Center property to Rowan Cabarrus Community College, and we have Kyle back with us again.
Good evening. The Board of Commissioners has agreed by consensus to have staff move forward with the transfer of the Rowan Cabarrus Community College Business and Technology Center buildings and the property to the community college. The attached resolution is part of the process and includes the remaining steps to make the transfer. So Rich drafted this up, and I'm sure he can add some input. There's also a map that shows the property, if anyone is unsure of where that is. That's just where we put the early college trailers. So after we would make this agreement with them, on the maintenance side, we would need to work out a couple things based on the current lease that we have with them. we are responsible for some very, very minor maintenance over there on some of the infrastructure, not so much the equipment or the interiors, just some of the infrastructure itself.
There is another iteration of that resolution that I'm not sure what happened to it, but we'll make sure that everyone has it before the 15th. It's just a couple of small changes to it.
Okay. I thought he had attached that new one. I will get that to Megan. Yeah, yeah, we had that in time. That got on there.
And this transfer, there will be an additional agreement between the Cabarrus County Schools to make sure that they can continue to operate their early college as well on the campus, so that they all understand who's responsible for what as far as the cost and maintenance and the ability to use the property.
Yeah, I believe that memorandum of understanding to be out there with the schools and Rowan and us has already been floated around, and we'll be working on that.
Any questions? Thank you. Next item, 4.8. Alan Thompson is with us to talk about body armor for staff.
Thank you for the opportunity, excuse me, to be here tonight. In FY16, we started a project to provide body armor for our EMS personnel. It was an $80,000 project. It was something we'd been discussing for several years. And as we look into the profession, we see EMS providers injured at a rate, secondary to assault, 30 times a rate of national average, 0.6 per 100, and then 3 times the national average of fatal assaults at work. 4 out of 5 EMS providers over the course of their career will be the victim of assault. We see that as a result of a recent study published by the National Association of EMTs. So as we started looking at this project, looking at the current environment, we thought it was time to make this change. It was an $80,000 project. We received $20,000 from an emergency management performance grant, and then a $30,000 grant from the Cannon Foundation. We need $30,000 to complete this project this year, and that will provide body armor for all EMS personnel that will be mandatory wear. And we have already placed body armor on the ambulances, level 3 body armor, to be used with mass violence, active violence type scenarios. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have about the reasons we've made this decision and the cost of the project.
Would you clarify, I thought, is it 25 or 30?
25,000, I'm sorry,
Okay.
25,000, Mayor. Initially, it was a $30,000 ask. We went back, reevaluated that, and were able to come in at 25,000. I do apologize.
Alan, what about, can you describe a little bit about when you say body armor, what that consists of?
Is level 2 body armor the same equipment that the Sheriff's Department wears during their daily duty shifts?
It sounds really bulky armor, but not so much.
We have the bulky hard plate armor on the ambulances for mass violence response, so your school shootings, your active violence in the workplace. But what this is for individual everyday wear, because the biggest majority of the violent encounters that we have, we respond to an unknown medical call and find ourselves in the middle of a domestic crisis, or find ourselves in a situation where people are targeting our providers. Just last week, the Office of Emergency Management with the state and the State Bureau of Investigation released something to their fusion center that stated all uniformed government employees with a focus on fire and EMS and law enforcement should be aware of the current threat environment, even responding to nonviolent calls, and then also you should consider potential issues when wearing department apparel or otherwise identifying yourself as a public service employee when off duty, because there have been several cases recently in North Carolina where attacks have been aimed at EMS providers, in addition to what we're seeing with law enforcement across the state and country currently.
And one more question, Alan, are they size specific or are they interchangeable, or what's the lifespan of the body armor?
They are size-specific. We have fitted our entire staff. The lifespan is 5 years. We will implement a phased replacement policy. The way that we're ordering, we'll be able to stagger that replacement so that it's not a bulk cost. Again, for a single year, we'll spread that over several fiscal years.
Okay, any other questions for Alan? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, next item, 4.9, award bids for trucks, SUVs, et cetera. And we have Kyle and Michael back with us again.
Good evening. A formal bid for 3 hybrid cars, 9 trucks, and 1 SUV was advertised, and a total of 3 dealerships submitted sealed bids for the various vehicles on July 22nd, 2016. Based on the outcome of those bids, it is recommended to purchase 3 Toyota Prius hybrids from Cloninger Ford Toyota Scion for a total cost of $67,500, 6 trucks from Hilbush Ford for a total cost of $247,016.64, and 1 mid-size SUV from Hilbush Ford for a total cost of $29,173.54. And if you were keeping count of the number of trucks that I said we bid versus the proposed purchase, we're about 3 short, and that is due to an unclear specification listed on the bid form. So it was decided to reword the specifications and rebid for those 3 trucks. All bids received were under budget, and the cost does include tax and license tags. So the requested action of the board is for a motion to approve the bid award and authorize the county manager to execute contracts between Cabarrus County and Cloninger Ford Toyota Scion for $67,500 and with Hilbush Ford for $276,190.18, subject to review or revision by the county attorney. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have now.
Any questions for Michael? I think we had a great deal of detail included in the agenda, spelling out all those. Okay, next item, transfer of surplus vehicle.
Okay. The town of Harrisburg has requested a surplus truck from Cabarrus County for pulling radar speed trailers, the DWI safety trailer, and the driver's training cone trailer. The requested truck, which is a 2007 Ford F-250 4x4 truck, will replace the current truck they're utilizing to complete these tasks. The Infrastructure and Asset Management Department, along with the Finance Department, have both reviewed this request, and the attached vehicle is available for surplus and transfer to the town of Harrisburg per North Carolina General Statute 153A-176, 160A-274, and 160A-280.
The alternative to that would be to auction it off? Is that?
Yes, that's correct. This was very similar to the 2 requests I brought the board in the past couple months about donation to volunteer fire departments. It just so happens that in this case, Harrisburg is hauling some of that equipment that they're talking about hauling was co-purchased with our sheriff's department. So it's kind of a linkage between the 2 of us.
And when we dispose of these surplus vehicles by auction, is typically, we're not talking about big amounts of money, are we?
You'll be lucky to get $1,500 off some of them.
Right. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Next item is 4.11 from Planning and Development, request of right-of-way for abandonment on Overcast Road. We have Lee Snuggs with us.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Keith Wayne, let me see, Mr. Darrell Keith Wayne has requested that at the very end of Overcast Road, the last 480 feet be abandoned, the right-of-way be abandoned by DOT and him take ownership. I think the process is we approve the resolution, then we'll go to DOT for their approval and back for us for final approval.
Right. Any questions, commissioners? I think this is a road that terminates into a private driveway. It
Correct.
does. Yeah.
That's the portion there. The yellow portion is the road leak, correct me if I'm wrong, that they're wanting to, that they're talking about. The solid black line there at the base of the yellow, that's Mr. Wayne's property line.
Correct. He's building his personal residence there. I think he's right inside that line about 100 and some feet. He's going to have a gate, so he's requesting to have the entire, take maintenance of it for his own.
Right. Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, 4.12, resolution amending the Cabarrus County Commissioners' meeting schedule for calendar year 2016. And Megan will tell us about that.
Good afternoon. At your June work session, you amended your meeting schedule to move the August regular meeting here into the multipurpose room due to work in the Board of Commissioners chamber. However, since then, that project has gotten pushed out to October. So the attached resolution on page 97, that basically just moves the August regular meeting back into its typical location. It's going to shift the October regular meeting into here. And then it also adds in that joint meeting on Thursday, August 25th with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then due to notice requirements, it is requested to suspend your rules to go ahead and approve that resolution tonight. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Any questions? At this time, I would entertain a motion to suspend our rules. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And I would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution amending the meeting schedule for calendar year 2016.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Thank you. Now we move to the approval of our regular meeting agenda, which is on page 98 in your material. Of course, which includes most all the things that we have talked about tonight. Do I hear a motion that we accept the regular meeting agenda as presented?
Can I?
Need to remove
Yeah.
item F1.
Number one.
Yeah.
F1,
That's my question.
okay, right. Okay,
I'll make a-
remove item F1.
I'll make a motion for approval with that change.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. I would have one announcement, this popped up on my calendar this morning, and she probably doesn't want us to talk about it, but Commissioner Poole is the youngest commissioner that we have, and I've just realized that she is now a year older. So happy birthday, Liz. The rule at Rotary is if your birthday falls on the actual date of the meeting, we sing happy birthday. But we will spare the television audience and refrain from doing that tonight, but happy birthday. Okay, at this time, we will call for a recess. We will have continue our meeting beginning at about 6:15 with a joint meeting with the City of Concord to hear a presentation on their plans for downtown Concord. So at this time, we will go into recess and reconvene at 6:15. Thank you.